So I want you to think of yourself as a parent to your deeds. You produce them, you raise them, and you have all sorts of hopes for them. The only thing is, you don't see them yet. Now, just like a parent hopes that if they live long enough, their worldly children will comfort them and benefit them when they get older, we all hope that our hereafter children will comfort us and benefit us once we make that transition. The question is, how many deeds have you produced? How many deeds have you raised? And what's it going to be like to meet them for the very first time? Hatim ibn al-Asam rahimahullah said, إني نظرت إلى الخلق فرأيت كل واحد يحب محبوبا فإذا ذهب إلى القبر فارقه محبوبه. He said that I looked at mankind and I noticed that everyone has something or someone that they love. But then once they die, that beloved person or thing leaves them. So I decided to learn to love my good deeds so that when I enter into my grave, they get to come with me. The Prophet ﷺ said, يَتْبَعُ الْمَيِّتَ ثَلَاثًا. The deceased is followed to his or her grave by three things. أَهْلُهُ وَمَالُهُ وَعَمَلُهُ. His family, his wealth, and his deeds. فَيَرْجِعُ أَهْلُهُ وَمَالُهُ وَيَبْقَى عَمَلُهُ. So his family and his wealth turn back from the grave and they go home. And his only companion that remains with him in his new home from now on is his collection of deeds. And we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about the Day of Judgment what? يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ. The day that wealth and children are no longer of any benefit. From this point onwards, deeds are going to be your comfort and they're going to be your currency. And the Prophet ﷺ once asked the companions, do you know what Allah meant when he said, وَمَنْ أَعْرَضَ عَنْ ذِكْرِي فَإِنَّ لَهُ مَعِيشَةً ضَنْكَ? That those who turn away from my remembrance will have a constricted life. وَنَحْشُرُهُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ أَعْمَى, and will be raised up on the Day of Judgment blind. Now, that constricted life is certainly across all realms. But here the Prophet ﷺ said, when they go to their grave, يُسَلَّطَ عَلَيْهِ تِسْعَةٌ وَتِسْعُونَ تِنِّينَ. Allah places 99 dragons over that person. And the Prophet ﷺ went on to describe that every one of those dragons is like 70 serpents with 7 heads, stinging him and maiming him until the Day of Judgment. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. It's at this point that your hereafter children are going to come to your aid for the very first time. And this is before the angels even come. The Prophet ﷺ said that when the believer is placed into their grave and they hear the final footsteps of their family leaving, the punishment comes. And as the punishment comes from above, your prayer stands up and it puts its hand up and says, مَا قِبَلِ مَدْخَلٍ. You will not pass through me. So the prayer guards your head. And then the punishment comes to you from your right side. And the Prophet ﷺ said, your siyam, your fasting rises and stands guard and says, مَا قِبَلِ مَدْخَلٍ. You will not pass through me. And then to his left, his zakah stands and says, مَا قِبَلِ مَدْخَلٍ. You will not pass through me. And then at his feet, his sadaqah and silah, his goodness towards his family and then his community, his voluntary charity, his truthfulness, his honesty, all of those things stand guard at the bottom and say, مَا قِبَلِ مَدْخَلٍ. You will not pass through me. And then it's said to him, sit up. And he sits up. The Prophet ﷺ said that the sun is made to appear to him as if it's about